matters, or looking at TAing a piece of language. Formatting proposals between groups, blue for new language, please, just because I have difficulty seeing reds and greens, especially sometimes when they're really next to each other. That's when it gets really tough. Anything that might need to be added to that list? Then I guess I'd ask the group thumbs up, thumbs to the side, or thumbs down for establishing our norms. Wonderful. Looks like the norms will stay the same. All right, moving right on through things. Just looking at our agenda from last time, the first meeting we had all the articles kind of listed. So Article 1 is definitions. Traditionally, we've tabled this till the very end, just in case anything in our new language changes or we realize the definition needs to change. So I'd ask for a thumbs up, thumbs down for tabling Article 1 until later.
Yes.
Perfect. Article 2, dealing with salary and compensation. As we all know, that the legislature is still kind of doing their thing right now. The budgets are nowhere near set or known. I'd ask for a thumbs up, thumbs down to table that until later. Perfect. Article 3, same thing, unless there's, I don't know, Patty, is there any updates you might be able to provide to benefits? I know we won't discuss or agree on anything.
Yeah,
tonight.
you know what we do know is that the increase this year will be 2.8%.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So that was actually great news.
That is excellent news. Okay. So I would ask for a thumbs up, thumbs down to table that article until later. Wonderful. And then moving along now to the meat and drink of the evening. Article 4, dealing with leaves regarding personal, sick leave, any other type of bereavement leave, military leave that CPEs might need. As of right now, the CEA has nothing to propose regarding Article 4, so we will put the ball in your court. If you have any proposals, we would entertain them.
So, Ty, thank you. On behalf of the district, we will come back with language with personal and sick leave. We're not prepared at this time because it's a budgetary item. And so, but we will have probably a couple different ways of bundling that include both sick and leave.
Okay.
Personal and leave, sorry. And as we walk through the other leaves, we feel that extra duty pay, given that this was a COVID year, we don't anticipate any changes to that. We
Okay.
think that it was used. Patty just shared today that really appreciated the fact that it got paid out on the monthly basis. So folks were up to date and current and knew exactly where they were at from a month-to-month basis. That's all I have for that. The rest is pretty much in policy. So it would just be coming back with bundled proposals that would include potential of different in personal leave and sick leave.
All right, so
May I ask,
Yes.
so have you heard anything about extra duty?
extra duty pay. High school, I know at the high school, everybody likes how it's going this year.
Okay.
That they get paid every month instead of at the end of the semester. I feel that's going really well. I'd have to ask around just to get
Okay.
if there's any finer things. How's
About elementary.
second, the junior highs or elementary? Any,
I haven't heard anything.
Okay.
Haven't heard anything else.
okay.
Okay.
We can definitely ask around, but
Okay.
if I'm not hearing anything, I feel like it's a good thing. You know,
Okay.
it means
Yeah, that's
everybody's content.
And I can report, and Patty can too, that it was used, right? So it wasn't due to COVID that I don't think we're hearing nothing. I think that maybe we've got a pretty good plan there on how we're dealing with extra duty.
I think the changes we made last year have been very positive on that. Any other discussion on Article 4? No? Okay. Then moving on to Article 5 regarding working conditions. The CEA does have some proposals that we feel would fit into that topic. So I will pass around one of our proposals at the moment. I guess the question is, would you like me to just give them all to you and we can do our thing, or would you like?
Give them to us all together, and then let's walk through each one individually.
Okay,
If
perfect.
that makes sense.
Yep. that
So is
sure
this a
does.
bundle or is there?
No, each one is probably to be considered on its own merits
Okay.
individually.
Just the two, Ty, did you get two?
Should be one more on the way. Do have a third one. The third one is extremely tiny.
Yes, okay.
All right, so starting off, I'll start with the patron complaint procedure. So our rationale behind this is kind of twofold. It offers protection to teachers, obviously, when a patron or a parent has a complaint, whether, to the teacher, but I think it also helps administration in the district in that it provides a procedure for the parent to go through, a protocol to go through, rather than just bringing the problem straight to the building administrator or the district superintendent. So reading this, any parent and or patron concern involving the CPE shall first be addressed between the CPE and the concerned party. If the initial concern is expressed to an administrator or board member, the concerned party shall be directed to attempt to resolve the concern directly with the CPE. In the event that the CPE feels that the matter cannot be resolved directly with the concerned party, the CPE may request that the building principal or immediate supervisor be involved in the initial resolution process. If after the initial resolution process, a resolution has not been reached, the concerned party may elevate their concerns to the building principal or immediate supervisor. If a resolution cannot be reached with the building principal or immediate supervisor, the concerned party may elevate their concern to the superintendent. If the concerned party feels a resolution has not been reached, the concerned party may elevate their concern to the Board of Trustees. The appeal must be submitted in writing within 15 days of receiving the superintendent's decision. The Board of Trustees shall only consider whether a district policy has been violated, and the burden of proving a policy violation shall be borne by the concerned party. Upon receipt of the appeal, if the appeal alleges a violation of board policy, the matter shall be placed on the agenda of the next regularly scheduled meeting. A decision by the board shall be made and reported in writing to all interested parties, including the CPE, within 30 days. Patron complaints shall not serve as a basis for comments on the evaluation of a CPE.
I have to ask one question.
Yes.
Why would you want it on the board agenda? Are you asking them to take action on it in a public meeting?
I'm assuming that, yeah, there might be, in that instance, could be action on it.
If there's a violation of board policy.
Yes, if there is a violation of board policy, would that be actionable?
Well, I guess it depends if, I'm trying to think at a hearing. Can we look
Maybe
at the
it's-
hearing law? Because it might be that it's like, well, there's a problem.
Or maybe it's executive session?
Yeah, it
Okay.
depends
Okay.
on what it might be, because
Okay,
we just need to like look at.
yeah, absolutely.
Would you want this parent or patron concern, do you want them to have it in writing? Do you anticipate, so their job is to go take care of it at the lowest level. So if they have a problem with the teacher, they really need to be talking to the teacher,
Absolutely,
right?
instead of coming straight to you.
Right, so then it's like they're not feeling like they're getting heard. It goes to the principal,
Mhm.
but there's only one place where they have to put it in writing. Do you anticipate they'd have to put it in writing before it made it to the superintendent? Like, here's my grievance,
That is actually a very good point, I think.
because I'm gonna say this,
Considering
and
that.
it's, I know it's open meeting, but stories change
Absolutely.
as they evolve along the way, and I really think it needs to be written down.
Absolutely. I would hope I would hope that as a teacher, I know when I go back and forth with parents about issues, I save those contacts in a special folder, obviously. So
Yeah.
if they do come to my administrator, I can show my administrator what was said. As for the administrator meeting, I would hope they would take notes to provide for you just in case, or save those emails if it's an email train going back and forth. But I would agree with you that yes, there probably needs to be some writing documentation maybe built into that before it comes to you.
Yeah, because we just see things that can evolve over time and you're like, well, no.
And just so you know, on, as far as like on the board perspective, you know, we go to trainings, we're always in trainings. We have a training next week, yeah. And, you know, and new board members, we train them and we tell them, when a patron's gonna come to you and say, hey, I have this problem. And we are trained, we've been given little cards to say, I cannot listen to your argument or your problem, because if it ends up coming to the board, then I have a biased opinion already.
Mhm.
So you need to follow the protocol. You need to go back, talk to your teacher, and that is what we are trained to do.
Mhm.
So, you know, we have to stop them right there. And I say, if you want me to listen to this as a friend, then I'm gonna have to recuse myself if it gets to the board, because I cannot listen to this. And so, just so you know, that's how we're trained. And, you know, over and over and over again, we're trained that way, that we cannot, they have to follow protocol, and we have to send them back and say, you've got to go back, talk to the teacher, talk to your principal, and there's a protocol. But, you know, just so you know.
I think maybe a lot of people don't know that. A lot of
Yes.
teachers don't know that.
Mhm.
So I think if we have something in the master agreement, it assures teachers that just as they have to go through a procedure when they have a problem,
Mhm.
that patrons have to go through a
Mhm.
procedure as well. So even if it's, you know, unwritten, I think it needs to be written down somewhere so that teachers know. that it's
Well,
there.
see, that, because it can cause a problem if they go directly to the board.
Mhm.
A teacher, if a teacher has a complaint, goes directly to the board.
Mhm.
It could be that that board member will have to recuse themselves, and then you don't have you don't have a quorum.
Mhm.
And it cannot be heard.
Right.
It's like,
Shoot yourself in the foot. so to
Right.
speak.
it's like, yeah. So, okay, thank you for the clarification. Is
Absolutely.
there any other clarification?
Just one, the last sentence, patron complaint shall not serve as a basis for comments on the evaluation of the CPE,
Yes.
question mark?
Question
Because,
mark. Because, well, my opinion would be if, say you got one parent out of 100 that's causing the big stink, and that's the only patron complaint that's on that evaluation, it's gonna skew negative towards that teacher.
okay, what if there's a pattern where it's more than one? Or
If there's a
it
pattern,
becomes a
well,
pattern within domain,
with, say, more than one complaint from a patron, or just the one patron.
I can't speak for it. I can see why this is a comment that's necessary. But I guess I'm trying to take it one step farther, maybe, and say the word shall not serve. Seems like it's a definite, this will never happen. And I think my assumption is that we're taking this in isolation and there's not a pattern that could or would follow from this.
How about changing that to something more along the lines then, if we have a patron complaint that goes through this process, wouldn't be in the evaluation at all then, and we take those comments that we normally take from parents on our evaluation, something like this could definitely skew someone's evaluation in the zone of, into the realm of not accurate for their evaluation.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I'm trying to think, I'm sure, we can caucus on it too, but I was also thinking too, you know, if a teacher is receiving, let's say, they have 15 parents that are like, we would anticipate that they're gonna take care of that. And those 15 parents continue to call and say, it's not, you know what, I've tried, they're not answering my calls, they won't respond to my email. At that point, there's a point where that's part of your professionalism on the evaluation tool, and whether it ever got to this point, it's like, teacher A, you've had, you know, you need to call them back. So they've called me now. And this is, they called this day. I have it 3 different times. They've tried to get a hold of you. Now they're they're emailing or whatever, to say, let's work on, that could be a goal area.
Right, and but at that point, you're talking about, Dr. French, does it come an administrator comment or an administrator deal, like, okay, we're gonna put you on this pathway to improving this, I've gotten 7 phone calls, they're calling me now, they're saying you're not calling back, now you and I
That's
need
what,
to figure out something, so that even though the patron complaint started us along this road, then it becomes administrator teacher problem.
and we would expect that it's gonna be corrected. right,
Right,
so
and if
there's-
it doesn't,
Yeah, of
then
course.
again,
And there's a telephone log or email log saying, yes, see, I did reach, this is how I corrected that. And that's really what you want,
And that's
right?
where I think, if there's that many, if you have 15 parents with all have the same complaint against one teacher, to me, that's almost out of the realm of this, and that is almost more to targeted professional development for that teacher. I feel this is more of an isolated incident, kind of language where you've got that one parent where you're trying to work with them and nothing you're doing is good enough or help, it seems to be working, and we're gonna go through that
With the
process, so
special ed.
that way they don't come straight to Dr. French or straight to my principal and say, so-and-so is not helping me with my kid. When the reality of the situation might be, this parent never even contacted me, or I sent this parent an email back and they never responded.
Mhm.
Those are things that do happen, and yes, there are sometimes those incidents where a parent might email a teacher and the teacher doesn't get back to them in a timely manner. And again, I would think that would be an isolated incident covered by this, that we could work through that protocol to make sure the parent and teacher work together to make things better for the student.
Dr. French is right. We'll caucus on this one.
Perfect.
Yeah, but thank you.
Yeah,
Yes,
good
absolutely.
conversation. I appreciate the clarification.
And I have to agree, Chairman Casina, we honestly, it's like turning it back. It's like Keely will get phone calls and she will say, have you contacted your administrator? First off, you need to start at that level. Go and just get, because I feel like, anyway, really it has to be taken care of. The teacher's the only one that really can address that, and the administrator support, figure out what's going on.
Moving along then, the second handout, the second piece of language was for right to representation. So one thing I will say, and I know that Brian has experienced, and some of us at this table maybe have experienced, is that when especially with young new teachers, that they go into meetings with their principals or other supervisors, they might not know that they are allowed a representative at that meeting. So this would codify it into our master agreement. Just reading the language, when a CPE is required to appear before a principal and or supervisor and the meeting may adversely impact the CPE's working conditions or lead to disciplinary action, the employee shall be given, that should read CPE, I apologize. I missed that.
Thanks.
The CPE shall be given reasonable prior notice of the meeting. The CPE shall have the right to request representation prior to the start of the meeting or at any point during the meeting. After the CPE makes a request for representation, the supervisor shall choose from the following options. 1, grant the request and delay the meeting until a representative arrives and has a chance to consult privately with the CPE, or 2, deny the request and end the meeting immediately. Neither the board nor any member of the administration shall take reprisals affecting the employment status of any CPE, any party of interest, any association representative, or any other participant in any meeting by reason of such participation.
Questions? Anyone? We'll caucus on this one also.
Wonderful. And then the last one I have for you is, again, just as I found being the CEA president, and we've seen, is that employees sometimes don't understand some of their rights, like they have the right to their personnel file, that is in policy, but sometimes the average employee might not want to sift through policies or search through policies or know where to look through policies to find that. So this piece of language does reference the policy that is in the Caldwell School District policies. My hope is to put it into the master agreement so the CPE can know directly where to go to read the entire policy. But it's regarding CPE personnel files pursuant to district policy 5500, section 9. A CPE may request to view the contents of their personnel files with the exception to letters of recommendation.
Can I ask the history on this one?
On this piece,
Yeah.
it's something that, in my opinion, is not well known by employees, that they have the right to go look at their personnel file and inspect the contents. And actually, I believe that the district policy, I know Idaho code says they have the ability to rebut or even attempt to have items removed that were placed in their personnel file without their knowledge. So it's trying to better inform people of their rights.
Yeah, and there's, and honestly, I appreciate that because there shouldn't be something in there that you don't know about. Yeah, I mean, if there's been a letter of reprimand, you should know about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would hope.
I would hope so.
You know,
And
so.
And you can inspect your file, and I
Mhm.
appreciate the work of HR, because actually today, I don't think you could have seen that 5 years ago or whatever it's been to look at your file, but today you can go in and look at your file and it's orderly. You can see your, certification over the years, your contracts over the years, so it is definitely much more
Much more
organized.
organized than it was. Awesome.
And I think just to kind of reiterate what Ty said, I think for CPs, the master contract is kind of their go-to for what they have the rights to do and how it all lays out. And so they could see that there and they're like, oh yeah, it's in policy. I'm gonna go read that. Or I'm gonna go talk to my principal about seeing my personnel file, because honestly, I don't think many people know that that's within their rights.
Most of the questions I feel that this year as president are regarding policy that people knew or wanted clarification on policy, or most of the time had no clue the policy even existed.
Mhm.
And I feel this is a huge one for us, just because people don't know that they can go look at the personnel files and review them and rebut or even have items removed.
We do have a section, I'm just now looking through the handbook, that addresses personnel files. Is this something that we could possibly add to the employee handbook?
I think that as many places as you could put it, I think would be helpful. The more places it is, the less excuse people have to say they didn't know, in my mind.
We will caucus on this too.
Wonderful.
So with the opportunity to possibly come back, right now for the district, the only language we would like to have added, and we don't have it prepared tonight, is underneath, we have put together a amendment to the master agreement due to COVID-19 that dealt with elementary prep time. We would like that language added in, so it no longer would say at the beginning of the day, but it would say that they would get 45 minutes of uninterrupted prep time.
Okay.
But that's, in terms of Article 5, that's about it.
Would you give me the amendment
Yep, so
number?
it's gonna be 1D. It currently says elementary school CPEs will receive 45 minutes of duty-free preparation time at the beginning of the day. And we had met through the course of last year. I know a lot of us don't even remember the COVID year. But we had struck that language and added the addendum in the back that said, effective with the duration for the 2021 master agreement, elementary school CPEs will receive 45 minutes of uninterrupted prep time each day. Other than that, we're solid on 5.
You want to caucus now, or
Can we go to 6?
we can definitely go to
Okay.
6. Guess what? We have nothing.
We would like to
For
TA on
agreements
6
this
tonight.
You would?
Yeah,
Okay. I think that's something we'll need to just make sure we review and caucus about and
We have
discuss. And we can.
copies, if you don't have a copy yourself, and we also have a fresh clean
Wonderful.
to a TA.
Perfect. We've
So-
got copies we can review so we don't muck up your nice clean one.
And then we would like to add Article 7, no, I'm joking.
Very funny, Joe.
Yeah, Jody.
Way to go.
Caucus.
So can we caucus 20 minutes?
Are you okay with that? Just to look through it. Okay,
Yeah,
so
20
that's it.
minutes.
Okay. We'll plan on being back here about 5 minutes to 5 minutes
5
to
to
6.
5.
Yep.
Wonderful.
5 to 6.
I will.
I was just. He brought up that one. Oh, that. That's right. Yeah, we'll go ahead.
And my snack.
Oh, my God.
We're
All right, wonderful. All right, welcome back from our caucus. I'll turn it over to Ms. Mills.
Thank you. It was weird to get back into the flow of things. right? So I appreciate everybody's patience on that. For note-taking purposes, we have labeled, I have labeled, not we, I have labeled that patron complaint procedure will be CEA Proposal 1. And that was just a reminder for me that when we put proposals out, because we have them going back and forth, right,
Yes.
that we'll start putting proposals on. And so for Proposal 1, which is a patron complaint, we have a copy of policy 1012 that I will share. And for the reason that we have policy in place, rather than putting in the master agreement, we're going to decline the CEA's proposal with no rebuttal back, with the exception of that policy 1012 is currently on the board dockets. And so for that, again, when you put something in policy in the master agreement, if policy changes, that outdates the master agreement. If master agreement, then we have to go back and change policy. So the more different places you put things, the more opportunity you have for confusion over which source of truth you're going with. That would be the reason for that. What we are absolutely going to do is, because this is now the second year that this has come through negotiations, that we will intentionally put it on our administrator's agenda for August to remind them of policy 1012,
Okay.
as well as a walkthrough of how to follow it.
Also, I would also say we can bring it back to the policy committee to look at for revisions.
Absolutely. Thank
Yeah,
you.
just kind of looking at it, I think it would be in your interest too to have this revised, just because it starts off with going straight to the principal, instead of trying to hash it out with the teacher first.
Okay, any questions about proposal 1? Proposal 2 then has been labeled the right to representation. And we have a counter. We should have dated it, and we dated it wrong. So we will make sure we change that, but if you guys could change it on your notes. See how we do there, dividing them up. So this was language last year on June 23rd was our counter to the same proposal that we believe CEA brought forth last year, with a few words changed, but this would still be our counter. It would now be proposal, I guess, 2A. Presented on April 27th as the district's.
Are we
counter.
short? We're short.
Oh,
Yeah. This is CEA proposal 2.
This is, it was proposal 2, CEA's proposal, right to representation.
Okay.
And we'll call ours 2A
We don't have more.
and change the date. How many do we need?
I think, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll give you a chance to read through it. And Barb, we will absolutely get a copy as soon as we can.
No worries.
say was on the policy committee for CEA?
It's Chad Maxton and Kathy Neufeld. And then Becky Rich serves on there.
So
Yep.
to walk through our counter, instead of calling it the right to representation, we've changed the name to a right to request third party at a meeting. When a CPE is required to meet with a principal and or a supervisor, the meeting may lead to a disciplinary action. The CPE shall be given reasonable prior notice of the meeting, bless you,
Thank you.
so that the CPE may request a third party's attendance at the meeting. In addition, the CPE has the right to stop a meeting at any time to request third party's attendance. Once the request of third party is made, the meeting shall end immediately and shall be rescheduled within 24 hours. The rescheduled meeting date shall be held within 3 business days from the original meeting date. Bullet points outlining what the third party would do. The third party shall serve as a witness to the meeting and shall not be an active participant. The CPE shall provide their written consent acknowledging the third party may be privy to confidential information relating to the CPE. A third party shall sign a confidential agreement ensuring that the information shared in the meeting will not be disclosed. Going on to the next, neither the board or a member of the administration shall take reprisals affecting employment status of the CPE or the third party for reason of such participation. Furthermore, all participants agree that any information related to the meeting shall remain confidential and shall not be posted on social media or any other public forum.
So I think the big hangup we had when we kind of went around on this last year was the active participant. For clarification, could you describe what is meant by active participant?
Sure. And if I don't do this well, I would love some support as I look at my friend Penny Wade. This is still a meeting between the administrator and the CPE. And our intent for having third-party representation is to witness, not to become an active member of that conversation. Anything else?
Would that,
Would that be in every meeting?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Would that, are you saying, is that initial meeting or every meeting?
I would, if I understand the question, Brian,
Yeah,
I would say our intent is that they are strictly a silent partner and a witness to, if they're invited in through this. If they're part of the grievance, that's a whole nother ball of wax in terms of where that goes following the grievance procedure.
Or I would even say, so like initially, we're just hearing it out, like what's happened, right? And then if it goes to a, say an employee is placed on a plan of improvement, then you have an advocate there. So you would expect that there's a conversation taking place with everybody that's involved with the advocacy and mentorship. I would say that's the case.
what if the third party has something to add that can bring the conversation to a better, I don't know, outcome?
Even like a compromise or something.
Yeah.
like
or
that.
a
I
question?
mean, the third party should be able to speak if they have something that they can add to the conversation. Because you've kind of made them just a note taker at that point, or a witness. And if they could add something to the conversation, I think that might alleviate a problem. I think this is part of the reason why last year there was a little bit of an issue with that. Just because I've been in some of these before, and usually somebody can add something to the conversation there. Just something to consider.
To be a part of solving it at the
Yes.
lowest level.
Well, it's just like, that would be like we'll give you a chance to caucus or counter.
Yeah. She might-
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think, I
definitely.
think we definitely need to.
Okay. Any other questions on 2A, the district's counter to proposal 2? Hearing none. Ty, may I go on to proposal 3?
I'm sorry, Bill.
May I go on to proposal 3?
Oh, yes,
Yep.
absolutely. I apologize.
Thanks. So proposal 3 is what we're calling CPE personnel files. And again, referencing policy 5500 because it is currently in policy. That we would decline CEA's proposal to place this in Article 5. But what we will do is add this to the employee handbook. And we would coordinate with CEA or collaborate with the CEA in training their building reps so that we can get as many folks understanding that it truly is the right of the CPE to see their personnel files and steps they need to go to see it.
Is there any way that we could reference policy so that if it does happen to change, that we wouldn't have to go back and rework the master agreement? Because like here it says pursuant to district policy 5500, section 9. So I could understand if the policy changed and section 9 were completely struck, then this piece of language would be void since it wouldn't exist anymore. What if the policy number didn't change? I mean, is that a way to get around that hang up?
So if I understand the question, Ty, when I would have to defer to Dr. French in terms of how policy numbers are identified. Sometimes when we either suspend or we don't delete policies, what do we do?
That we retire them.
Retire them, then a new policy number has to.
Okay.
And then it's also 50, so my understanding is that each of the big numbers, like 5,000, 4,000, 3,000, reference a particular chapter or part of the policy manual. And that's my extent of my knowledge. How'd I do?
That was really good.
Thank you.
Very good, yeah.
So if I understand the question, just simply taking the number, I think would still put us in a pickle.
Gotcha.
Well, it sounds like we need to do some educating. And to help the CEA, I think it sounds like you're getting questions that I'm like, that's in, you can go look. I'm, that's interesting. Like,
Yeah.
I wonder why they think they can't.
I don't think that they don't think they can. I don't think they know that they can.
Okay,
Yeah.
Right, but
Well,
there's
where-
not that knowledge in the first place. I don't think it's like, oh, I can't go look at my personnel file. I think it's, I don't know that I can. If that makes
Okay.
sense.
Sure.
And I actually have a question about policy and policy committees and how policy is changed. So does the board have the final word on whether policy is changed or not? Right? I mean, they have the final word. I mean, we do have a policy committee that's made up of CEA members and teachers, and they make recommendations, but that's all they are, correct? Is recommendations. So, and this is the point that,
Kiwi, hold on just a minute. Is that a problem? Sorry, Barb, I don't think we're,
do you want me to wait until we fix it or?
Yes.
I'll lose my train.
no, you won't.
The
The policy committee makes recommendations to the
Right.
board.
And I understand that they're made up of teachers and CEA members and they make recommendations, but the final say is the board. And this is a point that I think I brought up before, and the reason why we want stuff in the master agreement is we do negotiate it every single year. And policy can change if the board wishes it to change. And I think when that happens, members and CPEs feel left out of the loop. And I understand that they have representation on these committees, but the deal is they are giving recommendations to the board that has the final say. So anytime we want to get something in the master agreement, it is because it's in there for that year, and then we renegotiate it the following year. So it feels like, to me, a bit more permanent when we have it in the agreement. Just because I feel like it's our members saying, this is something that we want in there so that we're sure that it's going to be in there at least for a year. But policy feels like it's on a whole different level.
Right. I'd like to say something. So when the process on the policy, we do have a first reading, a second reading, and a last reading. So there is chance for patrons, teachers, anybody to put input, to add input. And, there are some policies that if there's input, we have gone through it for a year, the same policy, gone and reviewed it. And okay, how can we best reword it, because we were hearing concerns. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that from one to the next, there's chance for input. So if you do feel, even though you're not on the policy committee, that you need to have some input and, let us know, we will take that into consideration. And we take it very seriously too. Now, another thing I do remember is when we asked for legal counsel last year, and they told us that, if we start pulling policy in the master agreement, if anything in the policy changes, then we have to open up the negotiations again. And if I'm correct, that's what our legal counsel said. So they said, it would be counterproductive to do anything like that, because it would we'd have to from what I understand, open up negotiations to change whatever policy would change if it's in the master agreement. And I understand that we go through the master agreement every year. It'd be great in a perfect world if that policy would stay for that year, but if there's a change, then we'd have to renegotiate.
And I totally understand that, and with all due respect, but I'm looking at the last time that this patron complaint policy, and if I'm correct, it was last reviewed February 14th of 2000. And if I'm correct, and maybe I'm not, maybe I don't
I think
understand
you
how
are,
it works.
You're correct.
So
It was revised in 16.
I totally, and I
Yes.
respected the work that the board does,
Mhm,
but boards change too.
mhm, correct.
And so, when you have something in the master agreement for that year, for members, for CPs, it feels a little bit more
Sure.
concrete for that year, and that's
Yes.
why we keep bringing it up.
And I, this is me. You know that I care about you deeply, but I'm gonna say it because it has to be said. We do not want to undermine the governing authority of the board. They have the right to set policy. They have the right to review policy by law. That is their right. And what we do not want to do is create a legal issue within our district, because we have undermined their authority as a legal entity, as the legal governing board of a district, and say, well, now we have to define, does the board have the authority to set board policy? Or does the master agreement override the board's authority? And that's where we can get into a dither, which we don't want to create that. And I think the board's very mindful. If you'll recall, we've had a board policy that was just approved after it's been over a year.
Mhm.
There has been a discussion about it for over a year, back and forth, back to the policy committee, back to the board, reviewing that. And I think, I do not want to usurp or undermine the board's authority as the legal governing body of the district by saying they can't, you set policy and you could change it in a year. Yep, they can. They have the authority to do that by law. Do they do that? I have yet to experience that, but I guess it could happen. The one thing that we do want to do is make sure that the master agreement or the board policy, it is really set to protect people and to follow state code. And we want to, how teachers are valuable, are a very, they're our most valuable asset to making sure that children, their needs are met. So I would hope that all of us would work together to make sure that we are addressing the needs, that people are proceeding forward in a professional, appropriate manner. right? And I don't want you to, I think that that's what we're building. And yeah, boards can change. And we've seen that. But I also want to just make sure that we don't undermine their authority as a governing body as a legal, they are the legally governed body. Okay, so thank you for that
That's-
moment.
And I don't know if I could do this or propose that we look at this policy.
Oh, yeah, I think we need to.
Yeah, look at this policy and get it, and you folks talk to see any of your members that are on the committee and get it to where it needs to be.
Yeah, I
And
would,
so that we can-
because Barb's absolutely, you're right. So it does say last revised in 2016. That was just that someone went through it and looked. But it doesn't mean it went, that the committee, it went before the committee to look at, and it did not go before the board. It was just somebody went in, okay, we need to look at that. And I would say too, that we've had, it can come forward from a lot of different people. Would you have the policy committee look at this? The board has asked us to. They haven't just done it themselves. They haven't written policy themselves, but they may come across something. They're like, that seems old.
Mhm.
1997 is old.
Mhm.
2021 is a different year.
Mhm.
So that's been, and they've always pushed it back to the committee.
And please don't think that we're cherry picking policies like, okay, we're not gonna even touch this, we're not gonna touch that.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
we have,
we change policy according to what the law, the changes in the law are. And then adapt the rules. We change policy according to, what needs to be changed. So if you guys feel like there's something that needs to be changed, please, we have a committee for that, bring it up to the committee and we will look at it and we will go over it and get it to where it needs to be.
yes, it does. Thank you for that moment.
Moving on, I guess we can hammer this out, get it out of the way. Article 6 grievance procedure. If you are not proposing any changes, leaving it as is, I think we'll accept that. We're ready to TA on that.
Yay.
Yay. Okay.
Okay, we'll send it around. The process here is Patty Wade collects all of it and you'll just initial at the top as sort of a vote that you approve. It, pick it, yeah. And we'll date it and then that goes into. the record.
Yeah.
And then Ty, as we establish next week's agenda,
Yes.
I placed on there that the CEA will respond to the district's counter proposal of 2A.
Yeah, I think we're gonna need some time to talk about it and draft the counter.
Okay.
So I think that will be number one, because I'll be honest with you, based on this now and that, I don't think we'll have that counter ready for you this evening.
Okay. And I'm saying, so what I did last year is I scanned in your proposals, scanned in any counter, any TA, and then I just sent it all out. Is that what you're anticipating? That's what I'm gonna do again.
Yeah, I thought
Okay.
last year worked really well, to be honest with you. We did get I feel like there was a lot of involvement from teachers because I think there was last year, a lot of questions about things and what they meant.
And then I sent out the minutes. I just or I actually just copy pasted into an email. Okay.
So. And moving along, I guess we're on number 9 then. Unless anybody has anything else.
We're not gonna stay till 7:30?
You, Maricela, you are more than welcome. You can stay all night if you want. I think you kind of run the place, right?
Just wait
till she
has that badge.
So establishing our agenda for next week, Tuesday, May 4th, 4:30, scheduled to stop at 7:30. Tentative agenda items number 1 is Ms. Mills said CA responds to district proposal 2A, the right to request a third party. I'll take suggestions from there.
I would maybe ask the group if we could just have a placeholder moving forward so that if the legislature decides to go home, that maybe April can be prepared to maybe give us a legislator update in terms of where we are with the ed budget.
I like that.
And then she also shared tonight that the request for the scatter plot
Mhm.
and the other information that she rattled off that I should have written down and I didn't. Ty, you will have that by Friday night.
Love it.
Okay, you have to say that again.
I
Sorry.
believe the request of documents from CEA that includes the scatter plot
Okay,
and the retirees, whatever's on that scatter plot for placement of next year, that April will have to Ty, I'm assuming Ty is still the guy, by Friday night.
Friday, no. Is that the 30th? I think it is.
Yep.
And then also that we reserve the right if the legislator should actually approve the budget, which I thought that was on the agenda today. And I did not hear that they,
I didn't see anything in the news.
I don't either, so. We may all need to start looking for someone to represent us. Like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, Bill. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, because the only change we have in Article 5 is the language, we'll have that for you on
Okay.
next Tuesday.
Say that again?
The language coming from the district on Article 5 with elementary prep time.
I think we can fill in the rest of the articles, but who knows if we'll be able to get to them or not. We'll just put them on, and if we have to keep them tabled, we'll keep them tabled, I suppose.
With permission of the group, maybe the way we start again is to hit these topics first and then go back up and say, is there any new information in Article 2? Is there any new information in Article 3?
I think that's
Oh,
an
sure.
excellent way to run it. Okay.
I appreciate everyone TAing on Article 6.
I do too.
I'm looking, and the history of that, boy, that seems to have held us up for a little bit with great conversation. What I feel really good about is I really do think that we've come to a conclusion that works for everybody.
I believe you're right.
So
Makes life easy when that happens, right?
great conversations to arrive at where we have.
Anything? Oh, go ahead.
Brian, you didn't say conceivably. I was gonna put little tap marks on here. I'm still gonna bring my little tap marker thing for next time.
It did happen. Eventually, there was another bill, right?
Yes, there was conceivably, there was.
Yeah.
Keely, could you kind of close that screen so they can kind of see what I've written, just to verify? That way you don't have to, you can just look tonight
Okay.
and see if it's, so I don't have to have you look after we leave. That's fine.
I'll think of another word.
Yeah, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay, so that, here's the notes. So I didn't, maybe I should, oh, I'm kind of frozen on there. Can you move that?
Yeah, she's got to move. I don't know why
Okay.
you don't have control.
I don't know. That's okay, right to representation. Do you see all that? Da, da, da. Oh, what is that? Something's
The
wrong with
personnel
there.
files would be, yep, proposal 3. 5,500.
Oh, okay, that, I'm trying to figure out what that is. That was district proposal to 1D.
It would be 2A. It's our proposal back to their proposal.
Okay.
I guess it's a counter to their proposal.
Okay. I'll fix that. Okay, anyway, It was for the amendment. Okay. Any other questions about,
No, I think
It's
we
pretty-
got it.
it's, okay,
That's good.
all right.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
One thing we had talked about, I'm sorry, Ty.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
One thing we had talked about in the parking lot last week was potentially putting out survey. Did we conclude anywhere on that?
I don't think we did. I think it kind of, we talked about it and then it never materialized. Is that something we still want to try to do? We've got the big things really to talk about. Those are the important things. I mean, I come up with a few questions that we could throw out there. So,
Do we want to put on the agenda next week to vet those questions? Would that be?
yeah, that might be a good idea.
And by that, Judy, do you mean each side come up with questions that they would like to see on the survey and then we go through them? Or we would vet them together? Starting. next
That's a
week?
great question, Barb. The way I envision in my head is that each side could possibly bring questions and then together we vet them with one document going out then to the survey. Just a suggestion. I couldn't remember
Yeah.
where we had penned that last
We,
time.
we discussed it, but we never really materialized things. I got to.
And maybe there's not a need, but I always know we have great voice when we do that.
Yeah,
Well, and I think sometimes even though people may say the same thing every year, I think people like to be asked.
Right? The survey? Is that what you kind of said? Parking
Um,
lot,
It came up in the parking lot last week when we met with the executive team.
right?
And I don't know if it's time to move it on to the agenda for the negotiations to collectively come up together or leave it in the parking lot. That's the
Okay.
question.
I think if we came up with some questions, we could agree on it, even get them out. And that way, when we just start discussing the big ticket items, we know exactly what our teachers are looking at, and what they want.
Okay.
Might help guide our proposals if there are any.
We'll create the agenda and.
Mhm.
Someone put it on there. Okay,
Anything else for the good of the order?
I appreciate each of you. I mean,
Yeah.
this is,
I agree.
it's,
Thank you.
voices are important, right? And I think the CEA is strongly represented. So I appreciate each of you being here.
Thank you. We appreciate you all as well.
good deal.
Well, if there's nothing else for the good of the order,
Sure.
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
We will be ready to broadcast next time. Sorry about that.
Not a problem.
Okay.
Caleb was fast.
Yeah, you are.
He might have been home in Valley View, wherever he lives, and I don't know. I was like, I don't know where he
He was
lives.
paying the ticket that he got to get here.
I think he-
I'm joking.
Oh my goodness, really? I'm not the only
Yeah,
one.
here, let's go.
It's a
Yeah.
ticket and
Yeah,
the,
let's go talk and check as long as.
Nice.
We'll get out of here.
That's right.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.
Yep, thank you all.
And meeting for all.